It might sound unbelievable, but I got pregnant by my brother when I was only 18. And here's how we ended up in this situation. I know what you're thinking. How could this happen? It's the kind of thing people don't even want to talk about, let alone admit. But I'm telling you this story because, for me, it wasn't as simple as some scandalous headline. It wasn't just some mistake or momentary lapse in judgment. It was years of things building up, and for a long time, I didn't see what was right in front of me. I had a pretty normal childhood, or at least, that's what I thought. My brother and I were always close. We spent hours together, got into fights, laughed about dumb things. He was 2 years older than me, but we were thick as thieves. We did everything together, from playing video games to talking about our dreams for the future. I trusted him. He was my rock, the person I could always rely on. But there were signs along the way that I ignored. The way he'd look at me sometimes, like it was more than just sibling affection, the way his hand would linger on my shoulder a second too long, the way his voice would drop in a way that made me uneasy. But I didn't think much of it at first. Why would I? He was my brother. I was too young to understand what was really happening. Then one day, it changed. We were home alone, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday. The air felt different. He came into the room where I was sitting and we started talking, like we always did. But this time, the conversation took a turn. We didn't talk about movies or school. There was an intensity in the air that I couldn't shake. We were sitting too close and I could feel it. I could feel him next to me in a way I never had before. I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew something wasn't right. It only took one night for everything to spiral. I didn't realize how far things had gone until it was too late. We were tangled in a mess of emotions, confusion, and feelings I couldn't comprehend. I didn't stop it because deep down, part of me didn't want to. A part of me thought this was something normal, even though I knew it wasn't. I couldn't see that I was being manipulated. I couldn't see that this wasn't love. It was something much darker. The next morning, when everything hit me, I was terrified. But what scared me the most wasn't just what had happened. It was the fact that somehow I wasn't sure how to make it stop. How do you undo something like that? And that's how we ended up here. That's how I ended up pregnant by my brother at 18. A mistake? A twisted turn of fate? Maybe. But the truth was, I had no idea what to do next. I had no idea how to handle this, how to fix it, or if it was even fixable. But this was just the beginning. Things didn't get any easier from here. Things didn't get better. In fact, they got worse. The pregnancy, that was just the beginning of a mess I couldn't untangle. I thought I could handle it, that maybe it would be easier if I just kept it quiet. But the more I tried to pretend nothing had changed, the worse everything felt. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. My parents, they had no idea. And I sure as hell wasn't about to tell them. They'd never understand. My friends, they started pulling away, and I didn't blame them. I wasn't the same person anymore, and they could see it. The house was tense, but no one said anything. My parents knew something was wrong. I could feel it. They kept glancing at me like I was about to crack, but no one said a word. It was like we were all pretending to be a normal family, even though everything had shattered. The silence became unbearable. I could hardly sit at the dinner table without wondering what was going to happen next. I started avoiding my brother. He was still pretending like nothing was different. He came to me, gave me that same fake smile, and acted like everything was fine. But I wasn't fooled. I saw how he was looking at me and I couldn't stand it. I didn't know if I hated him or if I hated myself more. I went to the doctor alone. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I couldn't talk to anyone about it, and I sure as hell couldn't raise a child under these circumstances. The decision to keep the pregnancy was mine. I wasn't ready to end it. Something in me just couldn't. Maybe it was stupidity. Maybe it was hope. Either way, I wasn't ready to face what I was really dealing with. But that wasn't even the worst part. What really hit me was when I found out that my brother, the one I'd been hiding this secret with, had been seeing someone else, another girl, for months. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought it was some weird coincidence or my mind playing tricks on me, but then I saw them together, out in public, holding hands, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. That's when it hit me. He had moved on. He was living a double life, and I was just the one stuck in the mess. The guilt and anger, everything I'd been holding back, finally exploded. It wasn't just the fact that he was seeing someone else, it was the timing. He'd been with her all along, while everything between us had been falling apart. He wasn't pretending to be the perfect brother anymore. He didn't care that everything was coming undone. I was left to deal with the aftermath. I was mad at him, mad at myself. I was stuck in a situation I didn't know how to fix, and he was out there living a completely different life. I had no idea how to move forward from this. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep acting like everything was okay. I had to face the reality that things were never going to be the same. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I stopped pretending. I didn't care about the guilt anymore. I didn't care about trying to fix it. I was done with the lies. It was time to make a choice. Everything had changed. I had changed, and I had to figure out what was next, even if I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I was done with the lies, with the silence, with the pretending that we could go back to what we once were. Things had already shattered, and there was no fixing them. But the real breaking point came when I had to face my parents. I had been avoiding them, hoping they'd just leave me alone and let me figure things out. But they weren't going to let me off the hook that easily. They knew something was wrong, and they weren't going to just sweep it under the rug. They cornered me one night after dinner, demanding answers. I tried to brush them off at first. I tried to act like I didn't want to talk about it, that it was all too complicated. But they wouldn't let up. They wanted the truth. They wanted to know what was going on with me, why I'd been acting the way I had. And honestly, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told them everything. I told them about my brother, about the pregnancy, about how everything had spiraled so fast and how it felt like no one in this family had even noticed. I told them I couldn't do it anymore, that I was done pretending. I could see their faces change as I spoke. Shock, disbelief, and then, finally, anger. I wasn't prepared for their reaction. My mom started crying, begging me to explain why. She couldn't understand how things had gotten this far. My dad just sat there, staring at me like I had torn everything apart. They both blamed me. They told me I was making a mess of everything, that I was being selfish. And then came the real punch to the gut. My dad said he never thought I'd be capable of something like this, that it was my fault we were in this mess, that I had ruined the family. He said I needed to stop being so dramatic and take responsibility for my actions. It was like a switch flipped. Everything I'd been holding back came rushing to the surface. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about their disappointment or their anger. I was done listening to their bullshit. I stood up, looking at them both, and I said, "You want responsibility? Here it is. I'm not the one who's been living in denial. I'm the one who's been stuck cleaning up the mess while you've both been pretending everything's fine. I've been carrying this family on my back for years, and now you want to blame me for everything that's gone wrong? I'm done." I don't think I ever saw my parents so stunned. They didn't know how to respond. I didn't wait for them to say anything. I turned and walked out of the room, not looking back. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going. But what I did know was that I couldn't stay here anymore. I couldn't stay in this house, this family that was so broken. I couldn't keep pretending to be someone I wasn't for them. So, I packed my things and left. No grand goodbye, no apology. I was done trying to make everyone else happy. It was time for me to figure out what I wanted, even if I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't have any answers. But I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I wasn't going to spend my life trying to fix something that was beyond repair. I was finally going to stop pretending. I never thought I'd make this decision, but what do you think? How would you have handled it in my shoes? If you want to learn more about how I changed my life after this experience, subscribe and stay tuned for the next video. Do you think people have the right to judge others for their choices, or should everyone be responsible only for themselves?